What does Richie Saunders do for BYU, and how much of a difference maker has he become?
Um, well, he had I think he had a concussion. Um, and he missed some games, but um, Monday or Tuesday was his first game back, and he had 30. So I'm assuming you're asking the question based on him playing in that game, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So um, no, they've got a really good roster. Um, he's a they're the Demon kid is such a good passer. A lot of time his open threes comes from deep penetration. Um, and they do a good job reading the pick and roll. Um, I think a lot of Saunders baskets are coming off assist, but he's also a tough kid. He's a different player than he was last year. I was looking at our scouting report last year versus this year. Last year, he was more of a guy that was a secondary guy. Um, this year, and I'm sure through hard work and having a new coach, he's got a different role, and he's suited for it. He's a tough kid. I really like him. Good size, really good shooter, athletic, good player.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to our next question here. Let me see. I don't see any hands raised. Does anyone have a question? We'll go back to Chris Paul. Chris, go ahead, Chris.
Kelvin, how has LJ's defense improved this year? I mean, what are the biggest differences you've seen in how he's raised his game in that area?
Experience. Um, he knows the different ways now to connect dots. It's not. You know, um, everybody's system or how they teach defense is going to be different. Um, one of the best defensive teams that we've played against was that Baylor team that won the national championship. They were elite, but our defense is different from theirs. The coach can't really. You can steal somebody's plays. You can steal a baseline out of bounds play or an after timeout play or a play, but you can't steal somebody's defensive system. You know, that's it's the head coach and how he runs it. That's the defensive system. Um, so he just had to learn. The way Scott did it's different than I do it, which is different than Steve Lutz does it. Bill, whoever, doesn't matter. But LJ in his second year is much more experienced, understands, um, and he's done a good job of helping our new guys. Like, Milos was in the same position from June through October as LJ was last year. So having just gone through that was LJ was able to help Milos a lot better, just like helped. Jamal really helped LJ last year, but Dejan and Quentin really helped Jamal. And Galen and Kyler Edwards, and just goes on down. Every year we have new guys, and they just get better as they go.
We'll go to Andy Yanes, please. Andy, go ahead.
Hey, Kelvin, how you doing, sir?
What do you say there? You've grown up, so what are you, Andrew now?
Uh, no, I'm still Andy. Funny enough,
Are
that's
you
that's
are
my
you
actual
one of
real name.
are you one of those guys, Andy, that when you were with the school paper, you used to ask questions. Now you're one of those guys got all the answers. Is that how it works?
No,
Tell
not
the
even
truth, tell
close.
the truth now, Andy. Do you have all the answers, or do you still ask questions?
No, I still ask questions. I
That's good. That's
nowhere
good
close
to
to
know.
getting all the answers.
That's good to know.
And well, this might be a pretty basic question, but I'm curious, how have you seen Milos grow over non-conference with his time with you guys during that non-conference portion of the season?
Oh, I think every year new players come in. There's a lot of anxiety. Um, you know, our reputation in certain areas probably precedes us, and I think they learn from each other. Um, I think all our guys do a good job of that. Is welcoming these guys into their brotherhood, but also putting our arms around them and help them through their tough days. I've always had an appreciation for how the culture that we built here, how the players embrace it, um, and they really help. Like Mercy's going through a tough time right now, not getting a lot of minutes, and I noticed how they were giving him a lot of attention yesterday in practice. That's what culture means to me. Is the stuff you guys never see. Um, but just confidence, I think it's a wonder drug, you know. Um, but building him to a point where, and I still think he's got a lot of room to grow. I still think he passes up too many shots early in the clock. Like the other night, we had a plan or a way that we wanted to attack Oklahoma State. A lot of times the shot we're going to get is the kick out, but just being ready to shoot it versus throwing it back in, little things like that. But Milos is a great kid, as all our guys are. Easy to coach, pleaser, wants to do well, prideful. Those kind of guys usually have steady growth, and I think his play reflects that.
Go back to Chris Baldwin, please. Chris, go ahead, sir.
Kelvin, you mentioned the culture. What does it mean for you to have, guys like um, sorry, not Andy, Kevin book out, come back and watch you, guys like that who played for you so long ago and still stay connected. What does that mean to you as a coach?
Oh, I think that's means more to me than probably anything. You know, um, Tim Heskett, I remember playing in Arkansas one year. We lost a tough game to a really good Murray State team, and then we had a bye week, and I put them through it that week. That we played Arkansas. Nolan brought his team into Norman. I think we beat them by 30. And Tim Heskett had 5 or 6 threes in that game. He had a year where he made 100+ threes. He was also at the game the other night. Kevin was a starter on an Elite Eight team along with Quantas and Hollis when he was a true freshman. But Kevin's an interesting story. He's a 4.0 student in high school. He's a valedictorian of his class. Back then, the USA Today used to run these, had all the track athletes in the entire country who's during track season, longest high jump, who had the high jump, long jump, all the track and field events. Well, there was at one point the furthest shot put throw in the country was Kevin Bookout, like 72 feet, 10 inches, something like that. But he also had the furthest discus throw. He threw the discus 236 feet. So, but he also broke Mickey Mantle's home run record. This dude was Paul Bunyan. And I remember recruiting Kevin, of course, Kansas and Oklahoma State and Texas, everybody was recruiting him. But to go from seeing him as a 16, 17-year-old kid, now he's been married a long time. I took pictures of he and his wife and his 2 kids along with Tim, with some other guys there. So, but that's same now. I'll randomly hear from Dejan or Devontae Pollard, Devin Davis. One of the things I enjoyed that the basketball tournament, Is that what they call it? The basketball tournament, that summer thing um, that our guys played in. I really enjoyed sitting courtside watching that. That was kind of neat. But all our teams, we've had the same culture everywhere we've been. This isn't new. We had a culture at Washington State and Montana Tech. I still stay in touch with all those guys too.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Manav Gupta from College Basketball Review. Manav, please go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. What does BYU do particularly well as a team that you feel like you'll have to try and limit or stop to be successful?
Their length in the backcourt, I think, is excellent with Demon and the Catchings kid. They're both around 6'9". They're long. They're very skilled. They both can get 20 in different ways. Catchings is a threat behind the three-point line. Denham as a decision maker, really good at hitting rollers, really good at hitting the opposite corner. They're extremely well coached, very disciplined. I think part of their strength is they have two fives, Traore and Keita, and they have different strengths. Keita's probably a better shot blocker, probably a better vertical athlete. Traore is probably more of a traditional low post player that can catch and score, but they complement each other so well. And then BYU is the #1 defensive team, rebounding team. So it's hard to get offensive rebounds against them. So, yeah, Chris asked me about the Saunders kid. He's coming off a game where he had 30. They have a lot of kids on their team that can get 20 to 30 on any given night. Their fives are positioned really well for their team. They've got two pros in Catching and Demon, but Hall, it's Hall and Saunders and Nail. All those guys can really shoot. They're dangerous. They're dangerous. This is a team that went on the road last year and won some big games, and they lost some games where they dominated for 25, 30, 35 minutes and lost at the end. Great win at Kansas. They got a lot of those same guys back, and they've added some really good talent. So BYU's good. I mean, and I think that's their baseline. I think they've got a chance to be really good as the season goes along.
Thank you, Manav. We'll go to Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle. Go ahead, Joseph.
Good morning, Kelvin.
Good morning.
So between J1, JoJo, and JVA, with in some instances catching them up from time missed and such, how do you feel like the front court's progressed maybe the last few weeks, and is there areas that you still need to see, whether it's just getting them all on available at the same time or healthy at the same time, that kind of stuff?
I think that'll be I've never quite figured out how to keep them healthy thing. I think if you worry about stuff you can't control, I just coach them. Juan went through some stretches where he weren't healthy. Like the other night against one of the reasons why Emmanuel wasn't very good the other night was he's dealing with a foot problem. I mean, it's all black and blue, swollen up. I mean, it looks nasty. But he wanted to play with it. Obviously, he wasn't very effective, but that's because of his injury. We had a day off Tuesday. He did not practice yesterday. Matter of fact, we put him in a boot just to promote healing. But when that's the tough thing about a 20-game schedule. You say, well, once we can get to the bye week and we can get some guys healthy. Well, there is no bye week. So we're all a sprained ankle away from mediocrity. That's a tough thing about being in this league is probably the number one thing is not your offensive or defensive system or free throw shooting is health. Can you stay healthy? Probably the two healthiest teams in the country last year was UConn and Purdue. They stayed relatively healthy the entire year, especially from January on. And that's a lot of time that stuff is out of your control. But those three guys are moving along. Obviously, Jaywan's never somebody I worry about. I see him every day, so what he did the other night was predictable. Emmanuel has had an outstanding year. I don't sit around and over-evaluate game to game and let that determine anything about the future. Terrence and Emmanuel are guys that we depend on, and I'm proud of their progress this year. The three big guys inside that we rotate, and said gets to go against him every day in practice, so he's progressing. It's hard to see when he doesn't play meaningful minutes. Those guys go in when we're up 20 or 22. That's tough for them, especially on the road. But I think our team is progressing. I do think this team has a chance to get a lot better, though. I don't think we're anywhere close to being as good as I think we can be, and we just have to keep working. Your improvement comes from your work. It may not be today or tomorrow or the next day or this game. You just got to stay with it. That's been my experience over the years. Is just keep hitting the side of that mountain. Eventually you'll get there, but you got to keep working, and you got to keep working on the right things.
We'll go back to Chris Baldwin, please. Chris, go ahead.
Kelvin, I think half the Big 12 road teams won in this sort of these opening games. Does that say something about the overall parity in the league this year?
I think you asked me that same question last year. And I'm pretty sure somebody asked me about it the year before. And I'm pretty sure somebody's going to ask me next year. There's parity in every league. There is no super teams. Everybody thinks their team is great and shouldn't lose. Well, I got news for you. Your team's going to lose. Can lose. We can play really good Saturday and lose. That's how good BYU is. We can go on the road and beat a good team. I don't think there's a super team in this league. The team that seems to be playing the best right now, whether they are or not, I don't know, because I don't get to see all of them. But I do know from firsthand experience how good Iowa State is. They seem to be really playing well. The other team that's really, really playing well is BYU. Have not seen UCF. First time I saw Arizona State was preparing for this BYU game. So I don't know enough about the league, Chris. Haven't seen Utah, but the parity thing, just set your clock to ask me that question this time next year. Parity's been here for a long time. That's why every year you have a chance, but you've got to be good and be lucky. I know that. But teams improve as you go along. But this is a great basketball league. The best teams in our league can compete for the national championship. I don't know whether they can win it or not, but they can compete for it. And the teams that aren't picked at the top, well, go back to who's doing the picking. It's just somebody's opinion. That's why I don't pay attention to polls. They don't matter, you know. If you want to see a league with parity, go look at the SEC. They're all good, every one of them. So is that parity? I don't know. That's just great. You know, you got about 10, 12, 15 teams in that league that you put them in somebody else's league, they probably win it. Same with the Big Ten, same with the ACC, same with the, I'm forgetting somebody. But all these leagues are tough, man. And it's, if you get a road win, stick a feather in your cap. It's hard to do.
We'll go back to Joseph Duarte, please. Go ahead, JD.
Kelvin, after going through the non-conference schedule where you had so many of the long, lengthy breaks between games, you play Saturday, then you have a Monday game, and then I believe it's pretty much similar to that or close to it the rest of the season. Do you get a sense from the guys or just maybe how you guys go through things that it's a good thing because of the ability to get a rhythm and sort of get into a flow and know that you won't have those type of breaks anymore in between games?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say our guys would rather play games than practice. Practice is important, but you need to see games so you can apply. That's what practical application is, right? Take what you learn in practice to see if it works in a game. Playing 2 games in 16 days is no fun. I didn't like it, but I've got to figure out a better way to do certain things. But there's always going to be those tough turnarounds, but nobody's going to complain about it, nor should you, because everybody has to do it. We're all in the same boat. So when's our next game? Get ready. Let's go play it. As soon as that one's over, get to the next one. Before we know it, we're going to be in March.
Kevin, if I could squeeze this one in, any updates, milestones on guys like Ramon and Jacob and their rehab? Ramon had said last week that I guess he's got to keep the incision clean right now, so that's kind of been the reason he's not doing more, but that should happen here pretty soon for him.
Yeah, I get my information from John Houston, as you know, Joseph, and when our kids had a chance to get a little break, and I sat down and talked with Jacob, and our kids had to come back. We practiced the day after Christmas on the 26th, so I told Jacob just to stay at home and be with his family. His mom and dad both flew out here from California to stay with him. They kind of tag team. His mom came, I think, for a week. Then his dad came for 3 or 4 days, but he hadn't seen his brothers or the rest of his family's aunts, uncles, and so it was good that he got to go home and stay. Now he'll be back. I think he's coming back this weekend. So just continue with his rehab. John hasn't talked to me about when we can expect him back. I think Ramon's is just he had surgery. He didn't get stitches. He had surgery. So that obviously the healing process there will be a little longer, but maybe into January, 1st of February would be my guess.